It was my niece's birthday, and my sister Sabrina didn't miss a chance to jab at me. "Still playing house with your cats, Kelly?" A wave of laughter filled the room. At that instant, the front door opened. A man walked in, carrying my sleeping little girl. "Go to mommy," he said, and my daughter ran into my arms, shouting "Mommy." Silence fell over the room. This happened last weekend at my niece Mary's 5th birthday party, and I'm still processing it all. I'm 27 years old, and for years, I've dealt with my older sister Sabrina's 31 passive-aggressive comments about my life choices. Meanwhile, I focused on my career, traveled, lived in a nice apartment with my 2 cats, Cookie and Stella, and genuinely enjoyed my independence. Sabrina never missed an opportunity to provoke me. Family dinners were filled with comments like, "It must be great to have all that free time," or "I guess some people just aren't ready for real responsibilities." The extended family would laugh awkwardly, and I usually just smiled and changed the subject. I love my nieces and nephews and didn't want to create drama. But Sabrina's favorite phrase was always about me playing house with my cats. She'd use it whenever I talked about home renovations, cooking elaborate meals, or anything that suggested I had a full domestic life without a husband and kids. "Oh, still playing house with your cats," became her mocking catchphrase, usually delivered with that condescending smile that made my blood boil. The comments became especially cruel over the last year when I renovated my kitchen, spending weeks researching the perfect backsplash and choosing appliances. Sabrina's response was, "Wow, what an elaborate setup just to heat up fancy cat food." When I hosted Thanksgiving dinner for the first time, with a beautiful table and food for 12, she walked into my dining room and said, "It looks lovely, Kelly. But it's a shame it's just for practice. Maybe one day you'll get to do this for a real family." The worst part was how the rest of the family had started to do the same. What began as Sabrina's individual cruelty had evolved into a kind of accepted family humor. My aunt would ask about my fur babies with a condescending "poor things." My cousin would joke about my fancy feline palace whenever I mentioned a home improvement. Even my grandmother, with whom I'd always been close, started to comment that I was married to my career and my cats. It wasn't just family gatherings. Sabrina started making subtle digs on social media. She'd share articles about the cat lady epidemic and tag me, or post photos of her kids with captions like, "So grateful for my true family," with an emphasis that seemed directed at me. Her friends would like and comment, creating an echo chamber where my lifestyle was an inside joke. What Sabrina didn't know was that 2 years ago, I met Oliver at a work conference. He was a single dad to an adorable 3-year-old girl named Anne. Her mother left when Anne was just over a year old, simply packed up and disappeared one day, leaving Oliver to deal with single parenthood alone. We started dating slowly, carefully, because Oliver was justifiably protective of and wanted to ensure anyone in his life was serious about being in hers too. The first time Oliver told me about, and we were having coffee after an intense day of presentations. His whole demeanor changed when he spoke of her. His voice softened, his eyes lit up, and he pulled out his phone to show me pictures with the pride only a father truly understands. "She's everything to me," he said simply. Her mom leaving almost destroyed me, but and kept me going. I can't imagine loving anyone more than I love that little girl. I should have felt intimidated. Dating a single parent is complicated under the best of circumstances, and Oliver made it clear that Anne's well-being came first, always. But something about the way he spoke of her, the obvious depth of his love and commitment, made me more interested, not less. Here was a man who understood what real responsibility was, who had proven he could put someone else's needs above his own, without resentment. Our first few months of dating were careful and slow. We'd meet for coffee during Anne's preschool hours, have dinner after she was asleep, or talk on the phone when she was with a sitter. Oliver was methodical about keeping his dating life separate from his daughter's world until he was sure of someone's long-term potential. When Oliver finally decided he was ready for me to meet, and he planned it like a military operation. We met at a neutral location, a children's museum, on a Saturday morning, and was shy at first, hiding behind Oliver's legs and peeking at me with curious eyes. But she warmed up quickly once she realized I was genuinely interested in the things she wanted to show me, not just pretending to impress her dad. We spent 3 hours at that museum, and by the end, Anne was holding my hand and asking if I wanted to see her favorite exhibit again. When Oliver suggested we have lunch together, she nodded enthusiastically and spent the entire meal telling me about her preschool friends and her favorite books. "I like her, Daddy," she announced as we were leaving the restaurant, talking about me as if I wasn't there. "She listens to me and she didn't try to fix my hair." Oliver laughed and scooped her into his arms. "High praise," he told me with a grin. That was the beginning of everything. Anne and I connected in a way that surprised everyone, especially me. I'd never spent much time around young children, but something about her earnest curiosity and complete lack of filter was utterly charming. She asked a million questions about everything, had strong opinions about which foods could touch on her plate, and possessed an encyclopedic knowledge of every dog we encountered on our walks. The transition from Aunt Kelly to Mommy Kelly happened gradually, and then all at once. It started when Anne had a nightmare one night. She woke up crying and Oliver was in the shower, so I went to comfort her. I sat on her bed and rubbed her back as she told me about the scary dream, and when she finally calmed down, she snuggled against my side and whispered, "Thank you, Mommy Kelly." My heart almost stopped. Oliver found us like that 20 minutes later, and deeply asleep against my shoulder, me wide awake and tearful, looking at this tiny person who had just claimed me as family without ceremony or official declaration. "Did she just?" Oliver whispered. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He sat on the bed beside us. "How do you feel about that?" "Terrified," I admitted. "And completely in love with both of you." It was then that we started talking seriously about the future. Oliver explained that Anne's biological mother had relinquished all parental rights when she left. She signed papers and everything, wanting a completely clean break. If Anne wanted me to legally adopt her, and if Oliver and I married, the process would be relatively straightforward. "But only if it's what you truly want, Kelly," Oliver emphasized. "Parenting is forever. There's no casual about it. If you're not ready for that level of commitment, I need to know now before Anne gets any more attached." I thought about it for exactly 30 seconds. "I'm ready," I told him. I've been ready since that first day at the museum when she held my hand. Moving into his house felt like the most natural thing in the world. Oliver's house was bigger than my apartment, with a proper backyard and a guest room that Anne immediately claimed as the playroom where Mommy's cats can live. We set up cat trees, installed a few scratching posts, and within a week, Cookie and Stella had settled in as if they'd always lived there. The Mommy Kelly phase lasted about 2 months before and shortened it to just Mommy. One night at dinner, she said it so casually, asking me to pass the potatoes, that I almost didn't notice. But Oliver heard it, and the look of pure joy on his face made me realize this was as big a moment for him as it was for me. "Are you okay with it?" I asked Anne later, when I was tucking her into bed, about calling me Mommy. She looked at me as if I'd asked the most obvious question in the world. "You are my mommy," she said, matter-of-factly. "You make my lunch and read me stories and help me brush my teeth, and you love me. That's what mommies do." I was overcome with emotion. We were talking about making things official, both the relationship and the adoption. Anne was already my daughter in every way that mattered, and Oliver was looking at engagement rings. We planned to announce everything to our family soon, but Oliver wanted to propose to me first, and I wanted Anne to be comfortable with the idea before we went public. The only people who knew about Oliver and Anne were my best friend, Madison, and my younger brother, Max. I made them swear to secrecy because I wanted to tell everyone properly, Perhaps at a family dinner where I could calmly explain the situation. To be honest, I was also savoring the idea of seeing Sabrina's face when she realized I had the family life she had always implied I was incapable of achieving. So when Mary's birthday party arrived, I showed up alone, as usual, my heart heavy with a secret I was keeping. Oliver was home with and who was battling a mild cold and needed her afternoon nap. But there was more to it than that. We had, in fact, planned all of this last week. The truth is, Oliver and I had been discussing how and when to introduce him and to my family, and we finally decided that Mary's birthday party might be the perfect opportunity. It was a family gathering, yet casual enough that we could gauge reactions without the pressure of a formal dinner or holiday celebration. But we also decided to make it interesting. Oliver suggested that maybe I go alone first, see how the conversation unfolded naturally, and then he and Anne could join later, if Anne was feeling well. Let them make their assumptions, he said with a mischievous grin. Then we'll show up and surprise them. I agreed, partly because I thought it would be fun, but mostly because I was curious to see how my family would react when confronted with the reality versus their perception of my life. Would they be happy for me? Surprised? Remorseful for the years of comments? What I didn't expect was for Sabrina to completely explode at her daughter's birthday party. The party was at Sabrina's house. She had gone all out on the princess theme, with a bouncy castle in the backyard and more pink decorations than a Barbie fever dream. I arrived with the dollhouse I had carefully chosen for Mary, along with a smaller gift bag containing accessories, tiny furniture sets, miniature dolls, even a small pet family that reminded me of my own cats. I'd spent weeks researching the perfect dollhouse, reading reviews and comparing features, because I genuinely wanted to give Mary something special that would grow with her imagination. The extended family was all there. My parents, Sabrina's in-laws, various aunts, uncles, and cousins. There were over 20 people in the house, crammed into Sabrina's living room and spilling into the kitchen. The noise level was typical for our family gatherings. Multiple conversations happening simultaneously, kids running around and screaming with excitement, adults trying to talk over the chaos. When Mary opened my present, the room actually went silent for a moment. The dollhouse was beautiful, a 3-story Victorian-style house, with intricate details, working lights, and enough rooms for hours of imaginative play. Mary's gasp of delight was audible across the room. "Oh my goodness, Aunt Kelly, this is so cool." She immediately started examining every detail, opening tiny doors and pointing out features to her younger siblings. "Look, it even has a little bathtub and stairs that really work." I felt genuinely pleased watching her reaction. Mary had always been drawn to miniature things, spending hours arranging her small toys into elaborate scenarios. That's when Sabrina struck. "Wow, Mary, it looks like Aunt Kelly is still playing house. Now she's making you do it too." She laughed, and several relatives chuckled along. I mean, at least someone's getting use out of Kelly's domestic fantasies, right? I felt my cheeks burn, but I just smiled. Glad she liked it. But Sabrina wasn't done. Oh no, she was just getting warmed up. Maybe it was the wine, or maybe she was showing off for our cousins, but she decided to go for it. "You know what I love about Kelly?" she announced to the room, gesturing at me with her wine glass. "She's 27 and she's still playing house with her cats, like she's living in some fantasy world. Most people outgrow that phase, but Kelly's really committed to the character." The room went silent. Even for Sabrina, this felt crueler than usual. My mom looked uncomfortable, and my dad was suddenly very interested in his piece of cake. But Sabrina was on a roll. I mean, don't get me wrong, the cat lady lifestyle works for some people. Very low maintenance. No real responsibilities. Must be nice to have all that freedom, too. What do you even do? Play with cats and make single-person meals. Several people chuckled. Not a gentle chuckle, but that uncomfortable social laughter people give when someone is being cruel but they don't know how to stop it. Sabrina relished the attention, her smile growing wider. Maybe one day Kelly will join the rest of us in the real world, but until then, well, we'll just keep watching her play house with Cookie and Stella. She raised her glass in a mocking toast to Kelly's all-important domestic achievements. I sat there, feeling humiliated and angry, but also strangely calm, because I knew something Sabrina didn't. I glanced at my phone. Oliver had messaged me earlier asking if he should bring and if she woke up feeling better. I'd told him, maybe depending on how the party was going. I quickly texted him, if Anne's awake and feeling well, you should come. I think it's time. His reply was immediate, on our way. I looked at Sabrina, who was still basking in her performance. I smiled sweetly. You know what, Sabrina? You're absolutely right. I have been playing house. I stood up, smoothing my dress. But here's the thing about playing house. Sometimes you get so good at it that it stops being pretend. Sabrina looked confused, but before she could retort, we heard a car door slam outside, then footsteps on the front porch. The front door opened and Oliver walked in, gently carrying a still sleepy Anne, who was rubbing her eyes and clutching her favorite teddy bear. The room fell into complete silence. You could have heard a pin drop. Oliver scanned the room, taking in the decorations and the cluster of surprised faces, all staring at him, and was waking up more, looking around with curious eyes. Sorry we're late, Oliver said casually, his voice carrying that natural confidence that made me fall for him in the first place. Someone needed her beauty sleep. He kissed Anne's forehead gently. But she woke up feeling much better and asking for mommy. He looked directly at me with that warm smile that still made my heart race. Go to mommy, sweetie. And immediately perked up, her face breaking into the brightest smile. Mommy, she said, reaching her arms out for me. I walked over to her and took her from Oliver, lifting her up and spinning her once before settling her on my hip. She immediately snuggled into my shoulder. Hi, baby, I murmured, kissing her temple. Are you feeling better? She nodded, then looked at all the decorations with wide eyes. Is it the princess party you told me about? It is. It's Mary's birthday party. Do you remember Mary, right? She's your age. Anne nodded seriously, then whispered loudly, Can I play with the princess house? I glanced at the dollhouse, where little Mary was still sitting, staring at us with her mouth agape. We should ask Mary first. It's her special day. The silence in the room was deafening. Sabrina's face had gone through several color changes, red to white to an alarming shade of purple. My mom was clutching my dad's arm, her eyes wide. Our cousins looked back and forth between me and Sabrina as if watching a tennis match. Oliver seemed completely oblivious to the tension. He stepped forward and extended a hand to my parents. You must be Kelly's parents. I'm Oliver, and this little one is Anne. He gestured to us with obvious pride and affection. I've heard so much about both of you. Kelly talks about family dinners all the time. She makes that famous lasagna recipe she learned from Mrs. Clara, and asks for it at least twice a week. My mom shook his hand automatically, still looking stunned. Oh, nice to meet you, Oliver. And had wiggled out of my arms and was now by my side, holding my hand as she gazed longingly at the dollhouse. Little Mary, to her credit, seemed to shake off the surprise first. Do you want to play? She asked timidly, and looked up at me for permission. I nodded, and she carefully approached the dollhouse, sitting on the floor next to Mary. Oliver put his arm around my waist, pulling me close. How's the party? He asked softly. Oh, same old family dynamics. I leaned into him, enjoying the solid warmth of his presence and the way he always made everything seem easier to handle. Sabrina finally found her voice. Kelly, her voice was strained, controlled. Can I talk to you in private? I looked at her for a long moment. Actually, Sabrina, I think we're fine. Unless you want to apologize to Oliver and Anne for the awkward reception, because they'll be at a lot more family events, and I'd hate for things to start off on the wrong foot. Sabrina's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Ryan, who never knew how to read a room, chose that moment to ask loudly, "So, wait, Kelly, you have a daughter?" "Since when?" "Since always," and piped up from the floor, not taking her eyes off the dollhouse. "Mommy's had me since I was little." Oliver chuckled. "Anne's sense of time is still developing. We've all been together for over 8 months, but Kelly's been a part of Anne's life for almost 2 years now, haven't you, sweetie?" He looked at me with such genuine love that I felt my heart expand. 2 years. My mother's voice was faint. "Kelly, why didn't you tell us?" I took a deep breath. I wanted to be sure we were serious before introducing Anne to everyone. Oliver and I wanted her to feel secure in our relationship before involving the extended family. We were planning to announce everything soon. "Announce what exactly?" Sabrina's voice had a sharp edge. Oliver smiled and pulled me closer. "Well, I was hoping to do this more privately, but..." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Kelly, I've been carrying this around for 2 weeks, waiting for the perfect moment. But I'm realizing the perfect moment is simply when we're all together." My heart stopped, and looked up from her play and gasped. "Daddy, is that the special ring?" "It is, Princess." "Should I ask Mommy this special question?" And nodded enthusiastically and stood up, rushing over to us. Oliver knelt right there in Sabrina's living room, surrounded by pink decorations and the smell of birthday cake. "Kelly, you have made our little family complete in ways I never imagined possible. Anne loves you like you've been her mommy since day one, and I love you more than I ever thought I could love anyone. Will you marry me?" I was already crying before he finished speaking. "Yes," I whispered, then louder. "Yes. Of course, yes." He slid the ring onto my finger, and cheered and hugged us both, creating a 3-way embrace that felt like coming home. The room erupted in gasps and congratulations. My mom was crying. My dad was shaking Oliver's hand and patting his back, and even little Mary was clapping excitedly from her spot beside the dollhouse. Sabrina remained frozen in the middle of it all, her face going through emotions too quickly to track. "But Kelly," she finally said, her voice small and confused, "you never said? I mean, you always seemed so. So what, Sabrina?" I asked softly, still holding and admiring my ring. "So satisfied with your life. So happy with your choices. So comfortable being yourself. So alone," she finished faintly. "I was never alone," I said, looking at Oliver and my family. "I was just private. There's a difference." Oliver was now in deep conversation with my dad, and had dragged little Mary over to meet Grandpa and Grandma Clara, as she had apparently decided to call my parents. My mom looked delighted, immediately asking Anne about her teddy bear. "You know what's funny, Sabrina?" I said quietly, stepping closer to my sister. "All those comments about me playing house. You were right. I was playing house. I was learning how to be a partner, how to be a mom, how to build something real and lasting. And as it turns out, I'm pretty good at it." Sabrina's eyes welled up. "Kelly, I'm so sorry. I didn't know." "I know you didn't. But here's what I need you to understand. Even if I had stayed single forever, even if it was just me and my cats for the rest of my life, that would have been a valid choice too. My worth isn't determined by having a husband and kids." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "You're right. I guess I've been jealous, honestly. You always seemed so confident, so sure of yourself. I got married so young, and sometimes I wonder what it would have been like to have that independence you had." "The grass is always greener," I said softly. "But Sabrina, you have a beautiful family, your kids adore you, and you're a great mom. We just took different paths." She smiled sheepishly. How can I start over with Oliver and Anne?" "I'd like that," I told Sabrina. But no more comments about my life choices, okay? Anne is watching and learning, and I want her to grow up knowing there are many ways to be happy. Sabrina nodded. Deal. And Kelly, congratulations, really. Oliver seems wonderful, and Anne is absolutely precious. She is, I agreed, watching as Anne carefully placed a tiny cake on the dollhouse's dining table. She's been the best surprise of my life. The rest of the party was a blur of introductions, explanations, and excited planning. When it came time to sing happy birthday to little Mary, Anne insisted on standing next to her new cousin and sang louder than anyone else. As we prepared to leave, she hugged Sabrina and said, "Thank you for the princess party. Mommy said maybe we'll have a princess party for my birthday too, and you can come if you want." Sabrina looked at me over Anne's head, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I'd love to, sweetie." In the car on the way home, Anne chattered excitedly about the party. Oliver reached over and squeezed my hand. "So," he said with a smile, "it all worked out." I laughed, spinning my new ring on my finger. Better than I could have imagined. "Mommy," Anne said from the back seat, "can we play house when we get home? But the real kind, where we're all a family." I met Oliver's eyes in the rearview mirror, both of us smiling. "We already are, baby," I told her. "We already are." Sabrina and I had a long talk the day after the party. She admitted that she had been struggling with postpartum depression after the birth of her youngest child, and that lashing out at my lifestyle was her way of feeling better about her own choices. She's started therapy, which I'm very proud of her for. She also apologized to Oliver directly. The rest of the family has been incredibly welcoming. My parents are absolutely smitten with Anne. My mom has already started teaching Anne how to bake, and my dad bought her a small toolbox so she can help with projects around our house. Oliver and I met with a family lawyer this week, and since Anne's biological mother relinquished all rights and has had no contact for over 2 years, the legal adoption process should be relatively straightforward once we are married. Anne is incredibly excited to make it official, as she says. Regarding wedding planning, we've settled on a small ceremony in April of next year in my parents' backyard, weather permitting. And will, indeed, be both the flower girl and the bridesmaid, carrying the rings in a tiny basket she's already picked out. She has also informed us that Cookie and Stella need to be in the wedding pictures, because they are family too. The most touching thing has been watching Anne's relationship with little Mary develop. They've become real friends, not just cousins joined by circumstance. Mary has started asking her mom if Anne can come to more family events, and last weekend Anne drew Mary a picture of the dollhouse with both their names on it, labeling it our playhouse. Oliver has been amazing through all of this. He keeps saying he can't believe how lucky we got, that it all worked out so perfectly. But honestly, I think we made our own luck by being patient and careful, and putting Anne's needs first throughout our relationship. The biggest thing I've learned is that you can't rush these relationships. Anne's acceptance of me didn't happen overnight, and there were definitely moments in those early months when I wondered if I was cut out for step-parent life. Kids are honest in ways that can be brutal. But that honesty is also what makes their love so genuine. Cookie and Stella have completely adapted to their roles as a human's older siblings. Stella still sleeps in Anne's room every night, and Cookie has appointed himself the official homework supervisor, sitting on Anne's desk and occasionally knocking pencils to the floor when he thinks she needs a break. Family isn't about biology or traditional timelines. It's about being present for each other, day after day, in all the little things that matter. Sometimes I remember when my family members used to mock me and my life choices. I spent years letting Sabrina's comments chip away at my confidence, questioning my choices, and wondering if maybe she was right about my life being, in some way, lesser or incomplete. The truth is, my life was always complete and I was already happy. But with the arrival of Oliver and Anne, my life was much better. Thank you for listening to Kelly's story. Tell us in the comments if you've ever gone through situations where your family made you feel less because of your choices. But remember, you are enough exactly as you are. Your life doesn't need to look like anyone else's to be valuable and complete. Sometimes, the most satisfying revenge is simply living authentically and finding joy on your own path, regardless of what others think about it. If you like this story, please like and share this video to reach more people, and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories.